It's time. Hello and welcome to another Battle Wagon adventure. Today, I refuse to get dressed. What we're gonna be doing today at long last is tucking this so it stops flapping around when I'm driving to work. So yeah, this thing's been flopping around like a bitch and slapping all over, and then it got caught on something the other day when I went to open the door, and it's been a nuisance, so it's officially time to get it fixed. I'm not too worried about how my engine bay looks because, let's be real, it's a 14-year-old car that says Battle Wagon across the front. So do I really give a shit? No. If you do, you're worried about these wires, you can tuck them down and up or through the fender wall or something like that. I didn't have enough wire length to do so, and I didn't really feel like resealing any new holes I drilled in the top of the car or under the roof rack. For me, the risk of it leaking was more of a concern than the visual nuisance of having that on the outside. And to do so, I would have had to splice in, run more wire, and create a longer run, which frankly I'm being lazy, and it's not a show car, so I still don't give a shit. So on that ground, what I'll be doing is sealing this into place in this little gap around the window sealant. I will be using this black silicone to do so. You can use clear, you can use white. I really don't give a shit what you use on your car because it's not mine. I of course chose black because well, it channels my inner gangster, really. The reason I'm also using silicone is if for any reason this window gets damaged or cracked or destroyed and needs to be replaced, the silicone can reasonably be peeled off and pull this out so that the window itself can be removed. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but you know, whatever shit happens, I'm sure I'm gonna be doing some spirited winter driving in this, so there's always the risk of it occurring. Ah, yes. Adhesive Saillant. So anyway, some Adhesive Saillant is really what you want on this, one form or another. It's gonna hold it in there. I didn't want to use an epoxy because, as I said, I don't want this thing permanently lodged in case the windshield ever breaks. I trimmed the nipple of this right off, that way, you know, the adhesive can go through. You gotta do that with a sealant like this. Then what I'll be doing is, after I stab a hole in it using the little stabby thing, just gonna take the nip and let my juices flow on the inside, press this in. I'm gonna line this up as best as I reasonably can, tape it into place at a few locations, and then stick it in more permanently. Here I have my expertly positioned specialty Battle Wagon adhesive tape masking material from the infamous Battle Wagon paint job project. That's all ready to go. Get some paper towels at the ready if you're doing this, because if you screw up, you're gonna need to wipe it. I'm also going to be putting a dab of the adhesive right here to try to keep this running along the rail. There's no real great place to tie it to otherwise, and I really don't want the top half still flopping around and making a hell of a noise on the highway, so that's why I'm doing it that way. I'm probably not gonna show it because I know everyone in the world wants to see me carefully tracing things with my nipples. I will try to get a good camera angle to make that work, but if I can't do it, then I'll just have to surpass that. Basically, the nozzle was not opened enough, so I was having a hell of a time squeezing this out. Had to go back, cut a little bit off. I'm just doing this a little bit at a time, putting a little bit of sealant in along a couple-inch strip, holding it until it gets reasonably tacky on its own, and then moving on to the next section. What you can also do is just hold it and put the sealant over the top if you'd like to do it that way, but I think it comes out a lot less clean. Not that I'm really that concerned with it on this car, but you know, there's no point making it look like a hack job for the sake of making it look like a hack job. That's just trying too hard. So now you can kind of see, looking up close, there's a little bit of bleed out in a couple of these areas. It's nothing really too critical. Again, I'm not horribly worried about it having a little bit of bleed out in a few locations. I'm more worried about it just not flapping around on the damn highway and being a nuisance, which is how it's been the last week or so since I've installed it. Also said I put a little bit up here. I don't expect that to hold, if I'm honest. It's more so that this part here isn't just a huge loop that looks awkward. I should say more awkward than it already looks. If you look, I mean, the plug is still very visible, and it's obviously still not a nice tucked wire job, but it's better than it was, so that's good enough for the battle wagon. The sky does look like hell today, but the temperature is the correct temperature. It's about, you know, mid 70s, give or take, and it's not too humid, so it's actually going to be the correct curing temperature for the silicone. If you're worried about how it cures, what you do is you look at these directions and then you just ignore them and let it sit in a dry environment overnight. I'm just gonna leave it like this, where it's nice and taped. Hope it doesn't fall off on its own, and if it does, patch it later, probably. It is officially the next day. I have let the adhesive sit overnight. I'm going to remove the tape and see if it actually holds the damn thing in place. It's actually in there reasonably well. It's peeling up a little bit there at the edges when you're putting a little force on it, but it looks a little bit like it's flexing, but it's actually this gasket below it that's flexing rather than the tubing itself not being held in place. So I'm reasonably happy with it. Again, there's a couple areas you can see it's sticking out a bit as far as the silicone being below it, but it's not a huge deal. Per usual, our battle wagon trick. Oh, look, it's fine again. Even up here, it's held in there reasonably well. I'm sure if you grab this and you really yanked on it, it would come off, but that's, oh, started peeling it. Oh man. Anyhow, it's good enough as long as you're not ripping on it, because when you're driving, obviously wind's hitting the front. I don't think anything is gonna grab this from the side hard enough to really yank it out. And if it does, it's not a huge deal. I can just reseal that one area. Silicone's reasonably cheap, and as you saw, it was a fairly quick project, so it's not really a big concern of mine. There you have it. Another battle wagon project is flawlessly executed. Stay tuned and I will have more stuff eventually. For a battle wagon first, I filled up my memory card. I don't know where it died, so I'm gonna repeat a bunch of shit and probably edit it out afterwards. Here we go. I have my expertly placed bastard.